I think if the Steelers wide receivers were better, this would be no issue. This would be Russell Wilson looks good. There's nothing to talk about. But I mean, the past 2 days, and again, it's only been 2 days, so I'm trying not to make rash decisions here or anything like that. I'm trying not to jump the gun, but you got to say what you've been seeing. And in 2 days, the biggest observation, hands down, is that the Pittsburgh Steelers desperately need a wide receiver. Desperately need a wide receiver. Like it is, Van Jefferson, I think, has dropped more passes than he has caught. Roman Wilson looks like a third-round rookie, doesn't look like a first-round. This guy was a massive steal, and I think he's got a ton of potential, but you're asking too much from a third-round rookie. My thing is, you look at a lot of throws from Russ, who's taken the first-team reps, and that throw goes incomplete, and you go, would he complete that if he had if a wide receiver not named Quez Watkins was the guy trying to catch that over Minkah Fitzpatrick and Joey Porter Jr., would that be a completed pass? Because it wasn't intercepted. It was in a good spot, but Quez Watkins was trying to beat double coverage from two guys that are 15 times better than him. And that's where the Steelers are. Is Van Jefferson's not a starting wide receiver. Quez Watkins not a starting wide receiver. Calvin Austin's got potential, but that's all it is potential. You're literally banking off of George Pickens and a third-round rookie, and it has already shown that the Steelers desperately need a wide receiver. It's got to happen. I think that, all the talk about the trades and everything, like you didn't know if it was overhyped or whatever coming into this. 2 days, I could definitively say they are in a lot of trouble if they do not add a wide receiver.
Yeah, and the interesting thing is, too, you and Steven talked about it yesterday, and it was essentially they look good coming off the bus, or at least they look better than we thought coming off the bus. But whenever you start getting into it and start seeing more and more reps and start seeing the intensity kind of rise, even from a day 1 OTAs to day 2 of OTAs, for that to be the one thing standing out, and that to be the one thing going into this that everybody was looking towards as being their biggest hole, it's just, the proof is in the pudding at that point. Now, again, it is only day 2, so you don't want to make sweeping generalizations about, the state of the entire room for the entire season. But, I think everybody going into this saw that they need a little bit more talent there. It might not necessarily be they need a star, but they need a little bit more talent than what they have on the roster right now.
Yes, and to be honest, I think they need a significant boost. Like, it's not like I think potential, you could get somebody with potential who makes a significant boost. A John Mechie, I think, fits that bill, but I don't think you could go get a Noah Brown. I don't think you could go get I don't know what other names are just mediocre out there who are the wide receiver 3, but you can't go get that. You got to go get a wide receiver 2 because you don't have one. It's George Pickens and that's it. And it's hard to judge the other side. Like, it's hard to judge a guy like Dante Jackson and Joey Porter Jr.'s growth and Deshaun Elliott, because you're looking at it and you're going, yeah, that was good. That looked really good against Scotty Miller. It looked great, and it's not competition. That you're trying to feed competition. You're trying to build. That's what made Joey Porter Jr. great, is he went every day against George Pickens and got outmatched every day against George Pickens. And this year, Roman Wilson's going to go against Joey Porter Jr. and he's going to get outmatched by Joey Porter Jr. all the time. But you got nobody else to challenge anybody. You have nobody on the wide receiver core except for George Pickens to challenge a Dante Jackson, to challenge a Deshaun Elliott or an Anthony Everett, or, you know what I mean? Like, George isn't going to play the slot. You have no idea how good a guy like Beanie Bishop is when he's going against, Connor Hayward or Scotty Miller or whoever. Those are not guys that you're looking at and saying, well, he looked really good against a guy who wasn't on a team a week ago, and there was a reason for that. That's where the Steelers are. That's hands down the biggest question right now. Is coming into this, you kind of hope that the wide receivers look good and that they would impress you more than they were. And me and you have had conversations. Maybe George just looks unreal, and that's good enough. And maybe Roman Wilson is good enough as a wide receiver too. And then you're banking on Pat Freiermuth. I think Pat looks good. I think Pat could have a big year. I think George looks like George Pickens, and I think in a real offense, he's going to be unbelievable. But there's nobody else, and eventually teams are just going to double team George Pickens, and that's it. Who you throwing the ball to? Roman Wilson, who's getting covered, who can't beat coverage. You're throwing it to Quez Watkins, Calvin Ott. They're not doing anything. It's just you need to go get somebody strictly for the fact that you could walk into the season with George Pickens, a wide receiver 2, Roman Wilson, and Calvin Austin, and then a bunch of backups, and you could feel okay about that. You can't walk in there with George Pickens, Roman Wilson, Calvin Austin, and a bunch of backups. You're missing a key piece, major one on that offense, especially when it comes to the wide receivers. And I have a name that I want to talk about in a couple minutes here that I think the Steelers should go get, that he's holding out of OTAs. He's not Brandon Ayuk. Don't worry. He's not Cortland Sutton. Don't worry. But there's a name that I think makes some sense, that fills a hole that I'm kind of moving past the, you got to avoid a slot wide receiver. Just go get whoever's the best. Whoever you could go make work, go get that guy. I think the Steelers have a new option.